This is the Breakaway Podcast, presented by the National Bird Hunters Association. The NBHA's The Breakaway Podcast is brought to you by Purina Pro Plan. Fine-tuned nutrition to promote strength and stamina in the canine athlete and longest-standing supporter of the sport of field trialing nationwide. You can fuel your champion with Purina Pro Plan using various physical and online retailers wherever pet food is sold. Purina Pro Plan. Fuel the champion within. Garmin. Delivering innovative GPS-enabled technology across diverse markets including sports and fitness, outdoor recreation, marine, automotive, and aviation. Garmin. Engineered on the inside for life on the outside. Gun Dog Supply. The leader in training collars, tracking collars, and so much more. Fast, friendly service, great customer support, and the newest gun dog products on the market. Gun Dog Supply. We train our dogs with the products we sell. Mule brand clothing and apparel. Outdoor clothing for all sorts of environments and conditions. From hunters in briars and wading creeks to forestry personnel, farmers, motorcycle riders, and utility workers, Mule is clothing for hunters made by hunters for over 38 years. Find your Mule brand gear at www.okiedogssupply.com. Gun Dog Central. Gun Dog Central is a centralized location for finding your next dog, whether it be a pointing dog, retriever, flusher, versatile breed, hound, terrier, you name it. Gun Dog Central is the place to find your next canine athlete. To find your next champion, visit them at www.gundogcentral.com. OnX Hunt, the #1 hunting GPS app. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. OnX Hunt. Know where you stand. And Park Cities Quail Coalition. Park Cities Quail Coalition is a nonprofit organization run 100% by volunteers who are passionate about sporting traditions and determined to make it available to future generations by working to sustain and restore huntable wild quail populations, to encourage and educate interested youth, and to celebrate the quail hunting heritage. Welcome back to the 10th episode of the Breakaway Podcast. I'm once again your host, Joe Hopkins. So glad that you've tuned in, and if you enjoy this podcast, or even if you're listening for the first time, please take the time to tell a friend, like, subscribe, and review the channel to help grow and promote the podcast and the sport of field trialing that we all love. Our guest this episode is Daniels Kennels professional and 2023 National All-Age Championship winning handler, Mr. Jamie Daniels of Dawson, Georgia. Competing professionally on the all-age horseback circuit since 2008, Jamie has not only garnered a reputation as one of the country's top all-age handlers, but a developer of young field trial stock, and also a shrewd breeder responsible in large part for the nurturing and championing of the Rebel line of pointers into the modern age. Further cementing his status in 2022, the late Super Sire champion Just Irresistible, whom Jamie handled, was inducted into the Bird Dog Hall of Fame, followed the next year by a win at the Ames Plantation in the 2023 National All-Age Championship with champion Miller's Blindsider. But before we get to our guest, I want to remind you or make you aware of a new field trial dog ownership venture that is already starting to take shape with several committed and interested individuals nationwide. The Breakaway Podcast is in the early infantile stages of structuring and crowdsourcing interested parties for a one-of-a-kind opportunity to own a high-caliber field trial dog on the National Bird Hunters Association National Circuit. How, you ask? The answer is syndication. Other sports, such as horse racing, have long benefited from the syndication of ownership to offer an easy pathway into the game and provide individuals with the ownership experience at a fraction of the cost. And let's face it, not everyone can afford or has the time or has the means to source a high-quality field trial prospect, much more financially carrying the burden of putting a dog on a competitive circuit. This new venture, if kickstarted, will provide new trialers, old trialers, or anyone looking for a streamlined and simple approach into ownership on a national level. Syndications or partnerships are such a good option if you want to dip your toe in the water before committing significant resources to build your own kennel and start owning your own stock, and you can participate and learn about the game from the ground up before venturing out on your own. Utilizing our platform, our ever-growing connections, and experience in syndication, this new venture will source high-quality stock and place that individual or individuals in the capable hands of professional handlers for development and competition on the national NBHA circuit. So if you're interested in taking the next step in ownership, looking to get your feet wet into field trials, expanding your existing competitive portfolio without breaking the bank, or just looking for affordable fun and action in the field trial games, find us on Facebook under the name Elite Bird Dogs, or get in touch with me at joehopkins7@gmail.com. That's JOEHOPKINS7@gmail.com. And let me know if you'd like to be a part of a venture such as this, or if something like this interests you. Once again, if you'd like to try your hand at field trial dog ownership at the national level at a fraction of the cost, email me at joehopkins7@gmail.com for more details. Now let's go around the field trial world. National Bird Hunters Association results around the country get started with the Southern Regional Championship kicking off the circuit of championships across the country down in Glenwood, Georgia at the Ag Preserve, with pointer male Pure Confidence, owned by Black Meadows Kennels and handled by Indian Creek's professional Mr. Gary Malzone, taking the championship, and runner-up being called pointer male Twiggy, owned and handled by Cliff Monroe. And it's almost time for the big dance in Danceyville. The 2024 NBHA National Open Championship will kick off February 27th in Danceyville, Tennessee at the illustrious West Tennessee Field Trial Grounds. On to horseback action. The 2024 Arizona Open Shooting Dog Championship concluded at the Camp H Field Trial Grounds in California City, California, in a 16-dog draw with Ramblin' Rivers Natural, a pointer male owned and handled by Bill Stapleton, winning the championship, and CV's Red-Headed Flying Dutchman, a Vizsla male owned by Matthew John and handled by Brian Gingrich, taking runner-up. The long-standing and historic 129th Continental Open All-Age Championship concluded in Greenville, Florida, with this year's champion being named Haney's All In, handled by Mark McLean and owned by Steve and Stacy Croy, winning the historic championship, and runner-up honors going to Game Surge, owned and handled by Dr. Fred Corder. Lance Cervase and Brian Peterson's pointer female Southern Ritz Lane takes the Region 6 AFTCA Shooting Dog Championship, followed by Rebel Gold, a pointer male owned and handled by David Williams, taking runner-up. The Tony Gibson owned, Harold Ray bred, and Doug Ray handled pointer male CS Four Season Gunner wins the Atlantic Coast Open Shooting Dog Championship at Hoffman, North Carolina in a whopping 64-dog entry, with runner-up being Bittersweet Warcry, a pointer male owned by Joe Lordy and Ralph Galota, handled by Mike Tracy. The furious assault on the Derby circuit for handler Luke Eisenhart and his pointer male Rampage, owned by Tucker Johnson, continues with the win in the National Derby Championship. The two-time champions now qualified for a run at Ames, with the runner-up being called Haney's Last Call for owner-handler Chris Cagle. Stacy and Steve Coy's red-hot pointer male Haney's All In continues his hot streak, taking the 2024 National All-Age Free-For-All Championship in Hoffman, North Carolina, which has the son of legendary sire Ransom out of the Superstar Blue Hen female Haney's North Star well atop and leading the Purina All-Age Dog of the Year race for this season. The string of professional all-age handler Mr. Larry Huffman put together a banner day at the Hell Creek Wildlife Management Area in Blue Mountain, Mississippi, winning the Alabama Open All-Age Championship with pointer male No Sam Sweetwater for owner Jeff Busby, and runner-up champion with Whippoorwill Vet for owner Jeff Bush. In the world of German Shorthairs, the NGSPA Region 16 slate of championships at the Showtime Plantation in Broadwood, Georgia, kicked off with the Amateur Shooting Dog Championship, taken this year by Robbie Joe, handled by Kirk Lofton, owned by Sherry Tangsrud, followed by runner-up champion Janie, handled by Chris Young and owned by Robert Reynolds. In other walking field trial news, out in Mount Vernon, Missouri, the ABHA Western Regional Championship concluded with pointer male two-seamer owned by Colby Tackett, handled by Justin Crook, winning the Western Regional Championship, followed by young setter male owned by Terry Boatwright, handled by James Cleve. Boatwright's Maverick takes runner-up. Stay up to date with everything NBHA and field trial related at www.nbhadog.org or www.americanfield.com for all your latest news and field trial dates. Now let's welcome in our guest, Mr. Jamie Daniels. Joining me now on the Breakaway Podcast is all-age handler and Daniels Kennels professional, Mr. Jamie Daniels of Dawson, Georgia. Jamie, how's it going?
Going good. Can't complain.
Jamie, your name came up as a prime candidate for this next episode for obvious reasons. We've got a very important trial on the horizon coming up, and you had a very special event happen there last year, a very special happening. But it was also a little tedious asking you to come on. I was a little bit afraid that we could get a no because you got to be getting prepped for this national championship coming up. Is that what you're in the middle of right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's what everybody in the country that's all-age handler's got one going to Ames is in the middle of. Yeah, we're all grinding, all of us, not just me. But all these guys are good. If they're going there, they're good. And they're going there to win. They're all grinding.
Is it as difficult as I was imagining it to get an all-age dog ready to go to Ames and deal? I think of the elements. I think of the mud. I think of the potential for snow and ice and all those pictures of dogs getting rubbed down with Vaseline. And, I've heard stories of handlers having to really grind a dog down to get them to handle. And I've heard guys resting dogs for long periods of time to get those reserves built up. Is it really kind of a scientific equation here to try to get those individuals individual dogs ready to go to Ames and compete?
I think it's a puzzle that you put together over years. It's hard to go there and never been there and have your dog ready, that's for sure. It's hard enough to go there when you've been there a bunch to get a dog ready. But it's just the pieces of the puzzle that you collect over the years and kind of get an understanding of what the judges want to see and get your dog ready to present to them what they want to see and hope to God you get the weather and the bird food.
That's right. That's right. And you've definitely been to Ames your share of times. And I want to come back to Ames a little bit later in our talk here, but let's go back in time, Jamie, and let's talk about Jamie Daniels in a little bit earlier segment of time in history. How did you get started in bird dogs? Forget field trials. Let's talk about just Jamie finding his hands on a bird dog and having interest in bird dogs. How did you get into this world of bird dogs?
I lied on a resume to get on a plantation so I'd get a free house.
Well, I'd say it worked.
Yeah, I was working at a dairy and I was delivering furniture, and I didn't like it. And I was living in an apartment with me, and actually I was living in an apartment with me and Judd Carlton, who's got 3 dogs at Ames this year.
Oh, wow.
This was 25 years ago. I was 19 years old. Judd was 19. Yeah.
Wow.
And in the South, plantations were always a job you wanted to get because, you got a free house, free truck. You got a free truck if you were better than I was at the time. But I saw an ad in the paper and it said, scout job open, Riverbend Plantation. I lied like hell and said I'd rode a horse. And I never been on a horse. And we had dogs growing up, but they were just yard dogs that you could go and kill a coon or a quail or a whatever. They didn't care. And I got the job, and they give me a house. And I was so broke, I didn't care. I was just glad to have a house. I didn't know how to saddle a horse, which end the horse you're supposed to ride, but I was glad it worked.
Lies on resumes don't usually end well, but I'd imagine a man that ended up, or a young guy that ended up with a house and a really nice job, you did pretty well for lying.
Well, come to find out, they said that they put me on a quarter horse. It was 16 hands. It was so damn rough.
Oh, no.
You wouldn't want to rode him. And I rode him all day. And they said any man that can ride that horse that long, he definitely needs a job. So, and they give it to me. So.
Well, that's pretty funny. That's hilarious. And I know your story a little bit because there's been so many interviews in the past with some of you guys, especially on the elite levels there, and I've heard kind of your origin story there. But you went to your first field trial. You had to ask some time off from work, and you maybe had to bum a horse. Am I reading between the lines right?
Yeah, you did. I never saw an American field until I went to work at Longleaf Plantation, and Terry Butler was a manager dogman there. And I was helping him with the hunts and the dogs and the horses, and he had the American field, and he had it on his desk, and I walked in his office, and I said, "What's the American field?" He said, "That's the field trials that's going on. They're coming out every week." I said, "What's a field trial?" He said, "That's whenever you just take your best dog and you go compete." And I got to looking, and I said, "Well, there's a shooting dog and there's all age. What's the difference?" He said, "Well, all age dogs just run off." I said, "Well, how do they pick a winner if they all run off?" He said, "Well, they don't all run off." I said, "Okay." and I didn't pay no mind to it. I really didn't. I didn't know no different. But I kept seeing those magazines every week, and I'd see those guys posing those dogs, and I'd see the Purina points, and I was a competitor by nature. I played ball and I played baseball, and I competed my whole life. I come from a family of competitors, and I said, I got to go see one, and it just so happened that the next time I saw the American field, it was in the hunting season, and we were done, and Southeastern Open All-Age Championship was going on. I had a Jeep, and I threw a saddle in the Jeep, and I called a friend in Albany, and they had a horse that I could ride, and that's where I went. And that was it. That was the bottom of the barrel.
Well, I've heard you say too, though, that you didn't come from a field trial family. And usually when we think about our Southern competitors, especially the professional ones, most of them come from a family or some sort of upbringing that were around that plantation lifestyle and the field trials and stuff. But I've heard you say you didn't come from a field trial family. but you definitely are fashioning one out now. I mean, your father-in-law was just inducted in the Hall of Fame, and you've got a string of all-age dogs, and you're competing, and your kids are seeing this, and you're on the road and stuff. You know, for a guy that lied on the resume and then got this job, he's found himself at the top of the game. I want to know, how have you balanced family life and this professional life? Because I think people have a tendency to take it for granted. They see Jamie Daniels and all these great dogs and all these wins and getting his picture taken, but there's a juggling act on the back end with family. Am I right?
No, there's not a juggling act. It's one way or the other. It's hard.
Yeah.
Every single pro that's out there doing it, that's got a family, it's hard.
Sure.
It's not a juggling act. Juggling act is when everybody's laughing. It's a show.
Right.
It's not a juggling act. It is straight ass work. And sorry for my language, but it's not.
Sure.
Having a family has completely changed my life from a field child standpoint. I grew up on a tobacco farm. My daddy was a sawmill consultant. We had a machine shop. We had some yard dogs that were bird dogs. I had friends when I went to high school in Thomasville that worked, their fathers worked on plantations, and you got to see all the hunting and all the dogs and all the horses and all the grandeur. And it's great. It is.
Yeah.
I did it. You don't juggle all of it. Like, well, especially now, maybe back in the day when there was a lot of handlers and you had more time, but still though, it's hard. It's hard on a family. It's hard on a man. It's hard on a wife. It's hard on kids. It's just hard. And I'm fortunate that I had some success before I had all that.
Sure.
I'm done. I mean, really, I'm not done, but I'm done. I got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 9-year-old will be 10 in another month.
Right.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm a house dad. I'm working dogs at the house. I'm raising and training again. I'm finishing blind. If I get another blindsider, of course I'll keep going to field trials and all that. But every single one of us that goes up and down the road has got somebody at home that's keeping everything held together, because it damn sure ain't us. When anybody says that I'm the sole reason that I'm winning, and they got a family at home, they're wrong. And they don't. Everybody that I know, they got a great family at home that is working with them. Right. And it's a team effort. Nobody stands alone in the sport. It takes a team.
And when you go on the road, there is no juggling act. It's sacrifice. You're on the road, you're away from your family, and that's it. And it's one way or the other. And I totally can relate to that. And a lot of people in this demographic that are listening to this can also relate to it. There's weekends they'd like to go trialing. There's weeks they'd like to go bird hunting. But, duty calls. When you got family, when you got a job and other things that are vying for your time, you have to make the right calls. And, there's a lot of pressure to keep your picture in the field, so to speak. But I think it's good to hear also the other side of that coin, that sometimes you just got to put it down and you got to be home and you got to go to work and you got to take care of those things that matter most, so that maybe one day you can pick this back up, or you can continue to do this in a way that's a little bit more comfortable in a different time in your life. And I think it's a really important thing to put out there. I'm glad you said that. But there's a gap here in your career, Jamie, where you're working hard and you're putting all this together and you're fashioning it out and figuring out what you're going to do. How did you decide that you needed to make a jump and become a professional all-age handler? It's one thing to be on those plantations and doing those hunts and taking care of grounds and all that, and that cultivation. When does Jamie Daniels and how does Jamie decide, I'm going to handle dogs for other people professionally?
I was on the road with Fred. We won a little bit, but he couldn't afford to keep me on full time.
Right.
I took a job on a plantation. I was there 12 years. That man had a stroke. He was great to work for. He had a stroke. It didn't work. Luckily, I had a deal with him that I was working dogs for the outside and field trial a little bit, especially after Fred died. I had some clients, I was working dogs. I field trialed some, not much. So when it was time for us to part ways, I had a clientele, and I was working towards that too.
Sure.
Newly married, I had a newborn, my daughter. People will say that even though that the claim is that I was a professional and I handled dogs for money, that I still was not a pro. and still not a pro.
Hmm.
And and there's probably some truth to that because I'm still wet behind the ears compared to a lot of these guys. But it was like options.
Hmm.
Luckily, I'd kind of set myself up to where I had some horses, I had some good dogs. One we just put in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And I had a wife that said, "Go get them," and she literally said that. I mean, she was trying to get her career going, and like I said, we had a newborn, and like I said, my man had the plantation owner had a stroke. It just didn't work. I mean, I had to. We had to leave.
Yeah.
I got fired. I got fired for nothing, but still I got fired. It doesn't matter
Sure.
what
Sure.
it was about. You still got fired, and we lived in basically a 1.5 bedroom, 1 bath house, and we didn't have a choice.
Mm.
As much as I want to take credit for going pro and doing it, I didn't. It wasn't a choice that I made. It was a choice that I was forced into, and probably would have figured out. I mean, I could have went and took another plantation job pretty quick. I had offers, but I had the dogs, and if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And she said, you've been winning, and you've got it. Go. I got this, and I owe everything to Allison. I owe everything to 2 people. Well, 3 people. Well, 4. My mom and dad. Yeah, my mom and dad.
Don't forget Mama.
Yeah, my mom and dad for supporting me and helping with everything. And my wife, I wouldn't have done it if she hadn't told me to go get them. And she was serious. I mean,
Wow.
she said, "Go get them. You got it. Go." And we did.
That's awesome.
And and she'd been right there ever since. And now she's way more successful than I ever thought about being. and I was glad that I was able to do what I was able to do during that period to get to where now I can step away and I can put her on the pedestal where she needs to be.
Jamie, I can't tell you how important that is. And I've had talks with several other guys and gals in our age group that want field trialing and bird dogs as much in their life as they possibly can get. But the fact of the matter is, just like you started this conversation with, there's no juggling. It's choices you have to make. And sometimes, and a lot of times, you got to say no and stay at home and keep the dogs in the pens and the horses in the barns. But there's a fine line between having the things that are important taken well care of and then doing the other stuff. And it sounds like priorities and family and all that are well situated in your life, and you've got all that sorted. And I think that's just important as anything else that we're going to talk about for people to hear that. So I appreciate you sharing that. But you jump professional, and in comes Daniels Kennels. Now, our listeners that are meeting you for the first time, tell us what Daniels Kennels is. I mean, it's easy for somebody like me to tell you, yeah, he's a handler and he does some breeding and he does some developing. Is that essentially what your operation is? Handling all age dogs, breeding all age dogs, and developing all age dogs?
In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, Daniels Kennels was. I got tired of people sending me dogs that I was fixing holes and trying to win with, and they just weren't there.
Yeah.
And so Daniels Kennels started when I started breeding my own. And I had some really good clients, Jack and Tracy Haynes at the time, Mary DeVos, Stan Houghton, Rob Butler. And they believed in me after Fred died. They were Fred Leo's clients. They believed in me after Fred died, and we put the pieces of the puzzle together, and I started breeding, and I started raising my own, and I think that's when Daniels Kennels was born.
Gotcha.
When I was on my own, breeding, raising, training the dogs that I went with, and I didn't have clients that would go and buy them.
Right.
I had to make them,
Sure.
and that made me who I am today. And I'm probably, out of everything that I've done, I'm more proud of the dogs that I've raised and developed than I am of anything that I've ever, that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
What I've bred and what I've raised and what I'm going to continue to raise. And I'm at the point now where Daniels Kennels is breeding, raising, training, selling, and hoping everybody in the world gets a dog out of my kennel and goes and wins. I get more out of that than I'll get anything else. I'll train a bunch. I got a lot of amateur dogs. I'll train whatever. I don't care. But my heart is breeding, raising, training. My blood not my blood, my representation of the blood that I prefer. I guess that'd be the way to say it.
Sure.
I prefer the rebel dogs. My representation is different than it was 40 years ago.
Right.
I guess it'd be it's just a little different. It's just my variant of the rebel blood, and if you can go win with them, I think I get a kick out of that. That's my deal.
Working in racehorses, a gentleman told me a long time ago that has sat with me forever, and I think this is what you're saying. It's easy to go out and buy $1 million racehorse that's established and can go out and win, and that has the paperwork, and it just looks like it's easy to buy the nice ones. It's a lot harder to breed it, develop it, and then make it go out there and win. And it sounds like that's what your focus has been, is from the bottom up, making those breeding decisions and bringing those dogs along, specifically rebel bred dogs. Jamie, let me ask you this. I think of rebel dogs. When I think of rebel dogs, I naturally think of you and Fred. But the dog that comes to mind, or as far back as I go, is Fun Seeker's Rebel. Is that how far back your mind goes with regards to rebel blood, or the blood that you're still trying to cultivate today with rebel bred dogs? Do you think about Fun Seeker's Rebel that won the Nationals for Fred, back years ago, or does it go back further than that for you?
Well, it's funny you bring up that particular dog, but the one that I loved the most was Double Rebel Sonny, which was Fun Seeker's Rebel dad.
His father, right.
Yes, and I used to work him with Fred.
Cool.
When I was 21 years old, so 20.
Oh, that's cool.
Almost 24 years ago. But Fun Seeker's Rebel was a first-year dog, and he was the first dog that Fred ever let me scout.
Wow.
At the first trial I ever got to scout, and that was the Masters Open All Age, and we won it.
That's amazing. Was that as nerve-wracking as it sounds? Because you get thrown in the mix here, and this dog, Hall of Fame dog now looking back, but was that as nerve-wracking as it sounds, or were you a cool, calm customer to have that kind of assignment?
Man, I'm not cool, calm to this day. No, I'm practiced as all get out. I was lost as a gourd. I didn't know where I was. I just rode as hard as I could. And there's a saying for the scouts whenever I was that age. I've never seen somebody ride so far and come back with so little. I can remember calling point on him 2 or 3 times and thought I was winning the world. And then I remember almost calling point and the birds leave and I didn't know what in the world to do. And he would leave and he won that field trial to spite me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I didn't even know where the hell I was, much less what we were supposed to be doing. I stayed at home. I took care of the dogs. I would road dogs. I didn't get to go to field trials. I didn't know. I didn't know. And there's a part of me that still don't know at times. I'm just like, I don't know. Just it kind of going to fall where it's going to fall. I'd like to say that I know what to do in every situation now after doing it for so long. Shit, I don't.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
I just roll the dice and see how it goes.
Yeah, just chuck them out there and see what comes out in the end. Did you scout for Fun Seeker's Rebel when he won the Florida with that 109 or 110 dogs?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I scouted him a bunch of times, but the Masters was the one that still to this day, it got me hooked on the Rebel dogs. All my dogs have got Fun Seeker's Rebel in them.
Yeah,
And the next year, Wild River won the Masters, and Fred and I had a bunch of good times. Whenever he died, a part of me died with him.
Yeah.
But you go on. He would have wanted me to go on, and I'm glad I did.
I think one thing Fred would probably be proud of, I never met Fred, but the people that I do know that knew him would probably be proud in me being able to say this about you. One thing that me and you agree on wholeheartedly in our conversations, I hear a lot of people say, especially about pointing breeds, and we're talking about a lot of our pointing breeds, and especially these top-tier dogs like you have on your string. We use the word train a lot. Well, we train this dog. So-and-so trains dogs. But I heard you say a long time ago in an interview somewhere that you don't necessarily train, you develop. You hopefully have the genetics encapsulated in your breeding, and you don't necessarily train them to do it. You just help them do what they're genetically inclined to do. Is that something that's helped you along the way in your career breeding?
Oh yeah, I've said it a million times. I'm not a good handler. I'm a decent trainer, but I'm a pretty good breeder. And because I'm a pretty good breeder, it makes me look like a really good handler and a damn fine trainer.
I think that's key.
I mean, a great dog will make a sorry trainer look like a hell of a handler. And I can say that wholeheartedly because my dogs have pulled my dumb ass through a bunch of stuff. No, I mean, in all honesty, some of these dogs. I mean, there's some dogs that run right now that they're just bred to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just right now, but over the years, you can tell.
Yeah.
It's not they have something that the other ones don't. And I'm not knocking the other ones because there's a place for them and they're going to win their share too. But there's those special dogs that are going to go out there and do stuff every time that's going to make you sit up in your saddle and go, you can't train that.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen dogs, Jamie, just in the judicial saddle where you're watching the dog perform and you're thinking that dog doesn't need that handler or that scout one iota. Those guys are wasting their time. That dog is doing it all on their own. But what we take for granted is the generations and the years and the blood, sweat, and tears and the decisions made in that breeding that got that animal, that stock to that point.
Some people lose sight that Bud bred to Pearl made good dogs. Bud bred to Pearl made good dogs because there's 12 generations of good dogs bred sort of the same way in that cross.
Right.
You can get outcross, but anymore, there's no outcrosses.
Right. Yeah, it's all
not anymore. Not anymore. Everybody can say, "Oh, this is a true outcross." There's no true outcrosses anymore. I don't care what I mean.
No.
And they frozen semen this and frozen semen that, and I've got frozen semen from 30 years ago. Well, in all honesty, if we're doing what we're supposed to do, we're breeding better dogs right now.
Yeah.
I'm fixing to use some frozen semen to Just Irresistible and some females of mine. But I've been breeding those females to go back to that. I don't plan on holding on to it. If I have Just Irresistible semen in 40 years, I've done something wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a nice collector's item, but what use is it if it's not in that next generation of pups that you're trying to make the next better version of Just Irresistible? And I want to talk about that dog quite a bit, Jamie, because that dog's got a special place in your career and your heart too. But let's take a little bit of a focus on the National at Ames because people are really starting to dial in their focus. The nominations are in, the field is set. They're going to draw here soon, and everybody's going to know who runs where and all that. And you've told me you're right in the middle of getting Blindsider ready for that second bid for his championship, hopefully to repeat. It's the 125th running coming up this year on February 12th at the Ames Plantation. Let me just start by asking you, how do you prepare a dog for the National, or what do you do different with your dogs leading up to that point? Is there a potion? Is there a secrecy, or do you change things? What do you do?
Every dog's different. What I did for Irresistible is not what I did for Rogue Rebel, and not what I did for Rebel Squire, and not what I did for whatever I ran. Every single dog's different. Every dog takes it different. It's a physical and a mental breakdown of a dog to get them to the point where they can focus for 3 hours.
Yeah, and sometimes that's kind of grinding the edges off a dog so you can handle them, I guess. And then other times that's taking a dog bird hunting. I remember listening to Robin Gates years ago taking Shadow Oak Bow. They thought there was going to be a callback the year that he won it, and they took him bird hunting and shot birds over him just to keep him sharp and to get him dialed in to go bird hunting. And I'm always curious as the formulation that these handlers have to put into their dogs to get them ready for this 3-hour excursion, because it's one thing to take your dogs on the weekend and chuck them out there for an hour. This is a totally different endurance stake where this dog's going to be on the ground for 3 hours dealing with conditions, maybe not enough fines, maybe a ton of fines, and that dog has to mentally and physically be able to handle that, right?
Oh, yeah, and so do you as a handler.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
It's not I had a phone call with Chris Cagle, who's got a dog, super, one of the nicest dogs on the circuit, period.
Storm warning.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He called me tonight. He's like, how's everything going? I was like, it's just going, the deal. And he's, and we were just talking and just chewing the fat and it's just throw everything in a hat and toss it up and it's going to fall. It's going to fall.
Yeah.
All you can do is hope you got them ready and hope the weather cooperates and the birds are moving. And I'll give you a scenario today.
Yeah.
Judd and I are working, getting ready for National. At the end of the 2 hour, we had a 2 hour workout. At the end of the 2 hour workout, Heat Advisory, Cajun Justice, and Blindsider were jumping off, dug into these food plots that were at Sean Derrick's place. Instead of just pointing them way off on the path. And I mean, they were really getting in there with them. And, which is great because the dogs have got to dig birds up at Ames.
Yeah.
Because if they're not moving, they got to dig them up.
Sure.
And they're not going to move for 3 hours. They're going to really move for maybe an hour out of your 3 hours at the most.
Sure.
The rest of the finds are going to be dug up. And that's great that you got your dogs doing that. Really jumping in them bushes and beating them food plots down and bicolor strips. But then you got to find them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when the luck comes in.
Sure.
We can have these dogs jumping in that cover and really beating the bushes down, but you got to find them. And if it's super muddy and just at the end of the week and you got hundreds of horse tracks and the field trial course is just slopped out beyond all, there's no good footing. I remember running dotted line, and I remember going right down the course path towards the end of the field trial. It was a 2-week trial then, and she hit a hole just right in the middle of the course. I mean, she was done, blew her ACL right there. That was the end of her career. But that was the very first time she ever went to Ames. These dogs that go to Ames now, they learn to don't get in the horse path. They go around it. It's just, man, there's so many variables.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that. And I'm taking that for granted. All that gallery pounding those courses, day after day for, sometimes upwards of 2 weeks or more. And if your dog is in a habit of crossing the front, and going through that course or coming up from behind, especially, God forbid that they do, but those gnawed out courses, that can do a number, especially if they're frozen, they're got standing water in them and it's below freezing and stuff like that. That dog's got to not only go out there and find birds, but he's got to take care of himself for those 3 hours too.
Oh, I've watched them, I mean, towards the end of the field trial and those dogs that are running the horse tracks, I go, you ain't got to worry about him much longer.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to, people don't see that.
Sure.
People see, they see the dog a lot if they're in the horse tracks. You're going to, because they can't run. Yeah. It's one thing to go across a field that's muddy with no horse tracks in it.
Right.
It's another thing to go across a field that's just been pounded by hundreds of horses.
Yeah.
And they're standing in order now, because people don't realize that the horses as you go down that field trial course, those horses sink down. When they pull their foot up, it's like a pump.
Yeah.
And every one of them horse tracks is filling up with water.
Right.
And then it gets cold. And then all those horse tracks, it looks like a field, but it's just solid ice holes.
Yeah.
And them dogs are falling in and going through the ice and cutting themselves to pieces. And it's just rough. It can be as bad on a dog as anything I don't care where you go. It can be as bad at that property right there to run in as there ever is.
Yeah.
On a dog, because of the uneven footing, the ice, and then you got the cover. And for 3 hours, I don't know if there's one tough enough that can beat those food plots down.
Right. Yeah.
Without getting so sore they can't move. Got to use some brains. There's got to be a dog that's got self-preservation, that figures out how to go through there and take care of herself.
A dog that can pick and choose its battles and know when to go to war and know kind of when to put it on cruise control, maybe in certain sections of the course, and when to bother with this, not bother that. That's a lot of things, Jamie, I think our listeners maybe don't realize or take for granted with regards to what these dogs have to go through. They're not just put on the ground and go find birds and everything's hunky-dory. There's a lot of moving parts and variables. Let's talk about your run last year when you won with the National with Blindsider, Miller's Blindsider. And I want people to feel like they're maybe in the saddle and they're getting to watch this run, but they're also going to get a little bit of insight into Jamie Daniels' head as he's navigating Blindsider through the course. You ran on the morning course last year. Did you or do you have the run mapped out in your head before you take off? The certain fields and the exact lines you want that dog to show on, and the food plot that always has birds that you're going to try to put that dog on. Do you have that mapped out in your head before you ever cut him loose?
Hell no. No, I did with Rebel Air, maybe Just Irresistible, but Blindsider is a whole different dog.
Oh, cool. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I take that back. Rebel Air was kind of the same way. My whole goal with Breakaway on the first course is to make it past the first road crossing.
Okay.
after that, I don't care. If I can just make you past that first road crossing, I feel pretty good.
Okay, so you get to that first road crossing, that's kind of your barometer. I've still
Yeah, I
got
think
this
that's
guy.
like 20. I think that's 20 minutes in, or maybe 15 minutes in.
Okay, so you're
maybe,
not going to
maybe
blow out the
10.
back in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah,
You're good. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, if I don't lose them right there, I normally I feel okay about it.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. No, God, no. I don't have a plan, man.
Okay.
But I don't run a dog that you can just line up and shoot
Yeah.
over here and shoot over there,
Right.
and I don't have anything against those dogs. I wish I probably should incorporate more of that into mine, but yeah, I just when you turn loose in the morning course, you turn loose in the big field, I send mine immediately right, because I don't want them to go left, because if they go left, it's a straightaway, and they can catch the edge of that road and they hit the ditch and they can get too big of a jump. And I can send them right. They go around the field. I can at least see them at the 2-minute mark, 4-minute mark, and then they go out the chute, and hopefully we go up there or go across a little pond dam. You take a hard left and you go across the first paved road crossing. I just want them right there.
Gotcha.
If I got them right there, I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah. So you've got a threshold there that you're kind of marking. If I can get him gathered up, have him in sight here, I'm in good shape. But
no, not gathered up. If I can just see him.
Okay. Okay.
If I can just see him. Mine have a tendency to be a little over exuberant on the breakaway.
Okay.
Let's just say that. If I got him right there, I feel reasonably good about how things are going. And last year, I sent blindsider. The field goes behind you. Believe it or not, you turn loose and you jump off into the field, and we send them to the right. The field goes hard right and goes into like a cul-de-sac around, and then it pitches them back out in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I never saw him. I was like, oh God, here we go. I done lost him at $1,200 just went out. In 2 minutes, $600 a minute. I don't know what plane that on. So I loped over there to the edge. I didn't see him, and I looked at Judd, and I looked at the judges. I said, "Can I send Judd in that corner?" And Judd went over there and called point, and Alley's right there. The birds though were running, and the leaves going into that bottom, and we just thank the Lord. It happened that quick, because if he'd have went in there and if he'd have been 6, 8, 10 minutes ahead of us, we'd have never got those birds up.
Yeah, you'd been looking at a totally different scenario.
Yeah, and whenever we pointed those birds, I was like, wow, he's got his mind on the birds awful quick for him. I mean, I almost fell off the horse, but, it worked, and I said, all right, and now I got to catch up, and he's going to have a head full of steam. Going through the gallery, and then making a 90-degree left-hand turn. We got lucky, and I'm gonna say got lucky. He turned. I guess he zigged when he should have zagged, or whatever. But it worked, and we had our second find at the end of the field down in that bottom. You have to excuse me, and I apologize to Ames. I ought to know all the places.
All the little names of all the little turns in the roads.
I'm so horrible about paying attention. I don't know the roads I'm crossing. I don't know all that. And I'm horrible about it, and I apologize in advance, but I can take you where he pointed, and I know where I'm at when I'm out there. But but when he had his second find, I knew it was game on.
Yeah, and he had a find real quick out of the gate, and I'd imagine
like 2 minutes.
Yeah, like 2 to 4 minutes. He's already standing birds, and that can maybe make you feel good in a sense, but I can also see where that could be a little nerve-wracking too. You might be having one of those runs where you got a lot of contacts ahead of you, and you're thinking about what's this dog going to be doing later on down the road. Has he got birds on his mind? Is he not? What's going through your mind at that first find, 4 minutes right out of the chute?
The first find at 4 minutes, what was going through my mind is, I can't believe it's some gun pointed at 4 minutes. Because he's not known to point a bird quick.
Yeah,
I mean, and I'm not. I love that son gun. He's a 1%er. He's a lifetime dog, and I've watched him do some amazing things. But pointing birds really quick,
not his game.
No, Rebel Air. Oh yeah. He could point them fast. He could point them fast. He could point them. I mean, it didn't matter. But when he had them on his brain, I said, all right, we might have something going.
I get a lot of questions, Jamie, about scouting, and people want to know about the job of the scout and what do they do, what can they do, and what they can't do. And I had a question for you, and it was it was essentially, do you come up with a game plan with your scout? I know the answer to that, and the answer is the scout has, Judd has scouted that dog 100 times. He knows that dog's mannerisms, but the most important thing is Judd and these other scouts, they know the course or at least familiar with the course. And they put this equation together of the dog's mannerisms, its tendencies, plus the layout of the course and what's kind of happened over the course of however many braces or days have run. And then they come up with their own game plan and their own attack to keep that dog and keep track of it and help you, the handler. Is that a pretty fair assessment?
Yes, but Judd doesn't know Ames.
Oh.
Judd hunted for, and this time of year he had to hunt. Judd doesn't know Ames like a Nick Thompson, like
Sure.
Me, Luke, Mark, Corey Reinhardt, Gary Lester. Judd doesn't know Ames. He knows it now.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
Sam, the reason that I want Judd to scout Sam is Sam likes Judd.
Oh.
Sam don't like many people.
Gotcha.
And Judd knows how to scout Sam. And I don't worry about if Judd doesn't know the course. Judd is not just Judd, it's all of us, but guys like, Judd, Mark, Luke, the Tommy Davises, Mark Haynes, Nick Thompson, Huffman, Vincent, Andy. I mean, they are superior outdoorsmen.
Right.
You're not going to get them lost if they've been around it once.
Right.
I need Judd out there for Sam's peace of mind.
That's super interesting. That's another fold to it that people don't realize. We take for granted that a scout just knows the mannerisms of the dog and knows the course, but sometimes I guess it's just the connection that dog has with that scout, and he's just better suited for him mentally.
Sam is my dog. Nobody's going to go run Sam and win. He's not. He's going to come look for me. But whenever he can't find me, he'll track Judd.
Cool.
And he knows Judd. And if he don't see Judd, he's going to go find Judd.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The fines are spaced out like this, though, for blindsider. And I realize you probably don't remember this, but you remember the scenery. A fine at 4 minutes, fined at 15 minutes, a fine at 25, a fine at 33 minutes, and then there's a little break to the next fine at a minute and a half or an hour and a half at the north end of the New Basin, and then another fine at a minute 50 or thereabouts. And there's where we get into this long gap where the bird work dries up and the dog is going to be on the ground. He's going to grind it out. Was there ever a moment in the stretch from like a minute or an hour 50 to pick up where you thought maybe you were going to lose him or you could lose him or maybe you had lost him or you felt that way? Was there ever a moment in that span where the bird work had dried up that maybe you could just get him out of pocket and lose him?
We had one little spot where a vehicle on the road gallery, he went across the road ahead of me when we had to cut short, and the vehicle in the road gallery honked the horn.
Uh-oh.
And he don't like that. I mean, it doesn't, it just doesn't suit him. And I didn't think I was going to lose him, but I knew that for a minute there, he was going to get out of Dodge.
Uh-oh.
And it was fine. It all worked out. And we could have had another fine. We pointed the covey that we had pointed at 15.
Mm-hmm.
We pointed basically the same covey again at the hour 50.
Okay.
I could have pointed it again because we come right by there and he was headed in there again.
Oh.
And I caught him out of there.
Gotcha.
We could have pointed again. But in all honesty, what the hell are you doing?
You didn't need it. You didn't need it at that point. Right.
At the time, everybody says, "Oh, you didn't point. You need to point a bird in the third hour." It's like, well, I would have pointed those birds for the third time. So what are you really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a fine to me. It's not a tribute to the dog. He was going in there. I mean, he knew exactly where he was going. I remember Judd going. He was headed straight there. I was like, oh, he knows.
Yeah, he knows.
He's been around that course enough. He knows where every bird he's ever pointed. He was going right back in there to find them again, and he would have found them.
I agree with you, and it's especially not a fine in my mind when the handler, and I know you weren't doing this because you steered him away, but you see a lot of times handlers dragging those dogs to known bird locations or the same bird location again, and that really doesn't do much for the performance. Points. Yes, right.
Those are points. Those aren't fines. He had 6 field trial fines.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
All age, right in there, fine and pointed. Looked like $1 million fines. I'm not going to take away from what he did by going and pointing a cheap bird.
There you go. There you go.
And I could have. And I could have. And I had a bunch of people tell me, it's like, you're crazy. I'd have done it. I was like, it might bite me in the butt. But you know what? The dog on the ground, when we picked him up, I looked at Judd and I said, they might outpoint us, but they ain't going to outrun us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That answered my next question I had dialed up for you there. Is that clock's counting down and you're getting ready and, pickup's coming. How's that feel that you've laid down that ground race and you've had the bird work and you feel confident that the dog did his job and all he could do? That's got to be one of the more satisfying feelings. And you're probably like the rest of the guys that we've interviewed in these big dances and stuff. If the dog just does his job and he does it well, you can't help the rest. And that feeling of satisfaction is second to none, isn't it?
It's exhausting. When you get done, you're just shot. I can remember Judd and I headed back to our farm. My wife's family's got a farm in Huntington where we stayed and where we worked dogs. And we stopped at the Waffle House, and Judd looked at me and I looked at him. I said, man, I'm going home. We get to the house, we can kick these horses out and taking a nap. I'm exhausted. Judd said, I am mentally and physically shot. I said, I am too.
Yeah. No, I can see
I've done all I could do. Judd did all he could do, and the dog did all he could do.
Oh, I can see it. You're not only are you're kind of up in nerves because you got this dog on the ground, and especially when he starts to show that he might have a run in him to make it happen, then it's work. I mean, all the singing and the hollering and the riding and the getting up and down and the fight in the mud and all those things come in, and you do that for 3 hours on this adrenaline rush, and when you let down, when that rush goes away, you're just totally depleted.
I've been fortunate, and I say it's fortunate because it's tiring, but I've been fortunate to have it, 2 or 3 times at Ames, Rebel Air especially, several times with Rebel Air, or a couple times with Rebel Air, and then Blindsider. It's 3 hours of straight cortisol dump.
Yeah.
And you can't explain it until you do it, and you don't. The 3 hours goes fast.
Really?
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't. The only thing that drags out is the very, very end.
Yeah.
The very end, the last 10 minutes, because then you're just trying to get through and not lose them. Then
right, and that's if you got a dog doing it.
Maybe the last hour.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. But the first 2 hours, if you're pointing birds, you're just lost in translation. You got something going, and
right.
You're just trying to, you're juggling chainsaws. You're just trying to keep them all in there and not nick artery.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then you just get to the end, and your horse is tired. You don't even know that he's rough as hell.
Yeah.
It's just a tough deal on you, your scout, your horse, your dog. It's just in the end, you're glad it's over.
And that's what makes it so unique and so different from any of the other, majority being an hour championship stakes. This trial, the national championship at the Ames Plantation, has a way of sorting out the boys from the men. And something that I'd imagine that when you put that run together and you gather that dog up at the pickup time, it's probably one of the more satisfying things to know that you've got stock in your hands that did it and can do it. And you just made it. You accomplished that, regardless of what the judge's call is. You've just done it.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I don't mean to. I've watched I'm horrible. I watched the Facebook, and somebody gets something really good done in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
These handlers turn their dogs loose. They run them for an hour and a half. They pick them up with one find, and say that the top dog's got 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever.
Right.
And you hear all this. You see all this. Pardon my language, is bullshit. These people are writing, talking about, why are they picking them up? They're picking them up because, as a professional, it ain't working. The birds ain't moving.
Yeah.
They're not going to hurt their dog. The number one job of the pro is to make sure that the dog is in good shape, and the health and the safety of the dog is good.
Sure.
If you're getting something done, the owner doesn't mind rolling the dice, and you don't mind rolling the dice. If you're not getting it done, you put the rope on them and you live to fight another day.
And Jamie, you take into a consideration too, other things too. If that dog's not getting, you've seen more dogs than some people will ever see in their life. If that dog's getting it done based on what they've got and what you've seen.
That's right. It ain't working. In all fairness, Joe, I look at what have they got done, and am I beating it? If I'm not beating it, There's so many things that can happen to that dog while they're out there on that ground. A stab run through their chest, a stab run through their foot,
Right.
blow ACL, your horse go down, you can go down. There's so many variables. And for everybody to say, I can't believe they're just picking them up. They're not just picking them up for no reason.
Yeah.
The guys and girls that go to Ames are there because they deserve to be there.
Right.
If you don't think they are deserving to be there, go beat them.
Right. Yeah.
Go beat them, and you throw your hat in the ring, and you put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Until you do that, shut up.
Right.
You don't know what it takes to get there. You don't know what it takes to get a dog ready to be there. And you don't know what it takes to have an owner that'll back the dog to go spend $1,200.
There's the biggest thing.
That's right.
There's the biggest thing. It's disrespectful to the people that are actually putting dogs on the circuit and, like you said, putting their money where their mouth is.
Those owners love those dogs so much
Right.
that they're willing to pay somebody else to take care of them. They ride, they come, and they show up, and they look, and they do. The last thing they want to do is go up and say, if you go to pick up a dog and the owner goes up and goes, keep running, he's crippled, I don't care. No owner's ever said that.
Right.
They might have.
Yeah.
But no owner that I know of has ever said. They want that dog to go on and fight another day.
That's why it's super important, and the reason why you're successful and your patrons and your other handlers on the circuit too is it takes a special kind of owner to roll with these punches and to love this dog enough to keep going on the string and not give up on it and to listen to the handler and stuff like that. These are owners that trust you, not only with the health, safety, and well-being of the dog, but the campaigning of the dog and a lot of other things other than just go out and get me as many fines as you possibly can.
The relationships that these owners have with the handlers that are going up there and with the dogs, I wish more people could be a part of, because you're talking about somebody who's got typically more money than them.
Right.
Some of them don't. Some of them are doing everything they can do to put up $1,200 to go to Ames. Some of these dogs get run on a limited basis because the owner can't afford it.
Yeah, because of the finances.
Regardless, every single one of those owners are treated the same.
And that's how good businesses in any realm are ran, is equality with those customers.
For the love of the game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Well said.
The poor man and the rich man can have a dog at the National.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't say that about the Kentucky Derby.
Not necessarily. No, it's a lot longer shot and a lot more hoops and stuff like that. And it's definitely some truth there. Definitely some truth there. Jamie, tell me about a dog in particular that I was excited to kind of chit chat with you about that just recently got put in the Hall of Fame. Champion Just Irresistible, Stud, as you would have called him many times going around the course. Stud.
A lot of come here Stud.
a lot of that. Well, Stud went on in a career, and I'm gonna miss a lot of the things because the list is long. He won the 2013 Southeastern Open All-Age Championship, and I think he won that as a Derby, and I'm pretty sure he's the only dog to do so. He won the 2013 Border International Championship in a 65 dog entry. He was runner-up at the 14 Masters. He was runner-up at the 15 Florida Open All-Age. He was the top qualifier there. Runner-up back at the Southeastern again in an 80 dog entry. One thing that I thought was cool there, though, in that specific trial was that back in 17th Southeastern, he was runner-up to his half-sister, Dominator's Dotted Line, who won that trial. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a good one. Yep.
That was a good day. It was a good day for you, yeah.
Just Irresistible's mother and Dominator's Dotted Line's daddy were littermates.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah. And Stud was the first dog you handled at Ames under your tack, right?
Yeah, yep. He was the first one. Yep.
That's awesome. And here's where Just Irresistible or Stud's story really gets interesting. He has this career, and he goes off, and he's breeding females. He only breeds, what I've read, 21 times. 21 times he's bred. And I know he's been collected, and there's going to be more breedings. And maybe when this is wrote, this number has changed. But at the time, 100 dogs registered with 44 winners. That's a 44% strike rate. That's, in terms of statistics and probability, that's an unbelievable strike rate. And this is what helps propel this dog into the Hall of Fame. He's a sire of national champion Miller's Blindsider, as we talked about, 4-time champion Showtime Sam Houston, who won the Continental twice. Dogs like Thrill Me, dogs like Miller's Unfinished Business, 10-time champion Miller's Unbridled Forever, Seeking a Thrill, Miller's Heat Wave, all these dogs. It's so rare. It's so rare that a dog is this potent. And I'm just wondering what's going through your head. What's the feeling like, and how do you cultivate this dog and get the most out of him as a breeding prospect?
Oh, he died too soon.
6.5 years old, you lose him way too soon.
Yeah, he died too soon. You don't know. You think about it. Hell, he was dead before all this happened.
That's
Really, he had Sam Houston and KF Tornado is Absolute Tornado now. Littermake brothers, both of them champions. Jack and Fran Miller brought their blue hen up. We didn't know she was a blue hen then, but good God. If anybody needs to go in the Hall of Fame,
yeah,
she definitely needs to go in the Hall of Fame, because I guarantee you there's no female ever produced the champions that Miller's Bringing the Heat did.
Yeah. One of the most amazing things to me is that, stud bred to Miller's Bring the Heat produced 23 champion wins. I don't know how many dogs, were in that first litter, but in that first litter, I think there was 23 champions won by dogs in that litter. That is an insane number. He produced approximately 44 winners and 331 wins and 80 championship titles. It's no wonder this dog cemented himself in the Hall of Fame, given the imprint that he's had on the breed at just 6.5 years old, taken way too soon.
Yeah, I've got a female at the clinic fixing to have another litter out of him. I only have I think the most we had was 11 frozen semen breedings out of him.
Wow.
I had him collected one time before he died. And it's just been phenomenal. It just tells you, Lord, you don't know.
Yeah. Right.
It's changed the way I breed. I breed them young, I breed them often, and I look and I see, and I don't wait. If I think they've got what it takes, I go ahead and I breed them. And you're wrong a lot. This ain't checkers. This is chess.
Yeah.
If I had Just Irresistible now, you would see a completely different Just Irresistible.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. I say it. I think that one of the biggest things that Blindsider has benefited from is me not having the dogs that I used to have when I had Irresistible and Rebel Air.
I gotcha.
And Hitman, Dotted Line, and Rumor, and Rebel Squire and Rebel Patch. They're just, you can name the dogs, but Blindsider didn't get the full field trials. He didn't get the full road experience,
Right.
He's had more me and him time. If I had that with Irresistible and Rebel Air now, they would have won, and then they're telling what they'd won. They were all what I consider the 1%ers in their own right, but that they're all winners in different timelines of my career. Irresistible made me look really, really good when I was clueless. I think that I was pretty good at working a dog, but he pulled me through. He taught me more than I taught him, that's for sure. Rebel Air was the same. Blindsider is bred to be what he is. He was born great.
Yeah.
I just was able to recognize it sooner than I was maybe on the other one.
It's just so rare that a dog is so good on the ground competitively, but then also so good, and I'm going to use a term that we use in the horse world, in the breeding shed, and gets it done on both fronts like he did. The only shame is that we lost him really early. And the next dog I want to talk about, Jamie, I don't want to brush over him, but we've already talked about him a lot, and that is Blindsider himself. I believe he's 7 years old this year.
Yeah, he's coming 8.
Yeah, coming 8. He's going to run for his 4th time down at the National. He won it last year with 6 fines. He's a dog that's won the Masters twice. 3 times. And
only dog to ever win it 3 times.
That's amazing. And
his brother's the only one that's ever won the shooting dog 3 times.
Oh, that's insane. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And what's funny is he won the National Derby Championship too. He's runner-up at the Georgia Quail, Southeastern Championship twice, and the Florida Championship in 19. And he won the American Quail Classic a couple years ago. But one breeding aspect about Blindsider that I found interesting is Blindsider's dam's sister, Miller's Whitehall, was the dam of Lester's Sunny Hill Joe. And there's just that little nuanced connection there. I thought that was really neat. But Blindsider's still on the string. got stuff still to prove. He's going to run at Ames, and we've already talked a lot about him. Let's jump to Dominator's Rebel Air, because you've mentioned his name a couple times, and I wanted to give him his due too, because I know he's got a special place in your heart. You acquire Pearl again, a half sister to Just Irresistible's dam, after Fred's passing, unfortunately, and you breed her, I guess, to Scooter, Riverton's Fun-Seeking Scooter, and you get Dominator's Rebel Air. Is that true?
Well, first of all, Quiver River Daisy, when Fred died, I acquired her.
Oh, okay.
And when Fred was alive, we bred Quiver River Daisy to Just Watch.
Okay.
Just Watch produced a bunch of good dogs. Just Wait Best Dominators, Double Rebel Dominator, several of them.
Gotcha.
Just Wait Best produced, bred to Riverton's Fun-Seeking Scooter produced Just Irresistible.
Yes.
Hitman, Just Watch, Just a Minute, a bunch of champions.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to run for Jack and Tracy Haynes. We took Quiver River Daisy and we bred her to Sinbad, and we got Pearl again.
Okay.
Took Pearl again to Riverton's Fun-Seeking Scooter, and we got Rebel Air, Rebel Legacy, American Rebel, all champions. And then, Rebel Air, just, he was the 1%er out of that group.
Right.
Quiver River, blue hen. Pearl again was a blue hen. She passed it on. Just Wait Best was a blue hen. The line comes from the Rebel females that just, it just produced. I mean,
right.
I'm very fortunate for that. But Rebel Air was what I call a 1%er. He was a freak.
Won the Continental as a Derby, won the Masters twice, won the Missouri, won the Florida, won the All-America Quail Championship, qualified for the National, ran 4 times. I think he set out his Derby year, ran 3 times, I think, in total. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but the thing that I love to read about dogs, Jamie, is he completed that 3 hours every year, did he not?
Yeah. Multiple fines.
Yeah, multiple fines. And then 2020, he just didn't have multiple fines. He had 9 fines in 2020.
Yeah, that was a kick in the gut. But it's field trials.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through it every year. It was cold, wet, nasty, just horrible. It was his 4th year. He gutted it out, had a great 3 hours, had 9 fines. His last fine was like with 6 minutes left, and I was loping through just horrible in a cut milo field. And I got to the road crossing because I was trying to, get a finish on him. I was loping across a stubble field, bright at dark. He had the afternoon course. And I looked back, and I looked to my side. I had him at heel, and I looked to my side. I don't have Rev anymore. And I looked back, and the whole gallery had stopped, and he's pointed in the middle. I mean, dead in the middle of this milo field.
Oh.
I'd already had a UP.
Uh-oh.
I had a UP at like 25 minutes.
Right.
And I get up there, and the judges go, if you want to take him on, go ahead and take him on. And I said, well, y'all see any birds lately? And they said, well, no. And he looked, and Reb, and you'd have to know the dog, and he turned around and looked at me while he's pointed, and he turned his head, and he was like, they're right there. I said, he's got them. I jumped off my horse. I walked out in front of him 20 yards, and I kicked up a covey of birds that were on roost, and you just heard the gallery just go, woo. They didn't see it our way. He had 4 amazing, so very fortunate to be a part of 3-hour performances at Ames. He won the Continental. He won 2 Masters. He won the Florida. I mean, he just produced dog. He's produced dog of the years. He's in my mind, and he's not dead yet. He's still producing dogs right now.
Yeah. Game Air, dogs like that. He's got a lot of good dogs he's producing.
In the Hall of Fame whenever he's already produced dog of the years. And I don't know how many winners. And it just, he's up here at the house, right now. I've been very, very blessed to have 3 dogs, more than 3, but 3 what I call 1%ers in my life. Just Rebel Air and now Blindsider. And I hope that's not it. But if it is, boy, I've had a run,
I'm sure it won't be it. There's things that come up in life, and we stop and we go and we pause and we change and things happen. But I have a feeling that Jamie Daniels in a saddle with an all-age dog out there somewhere on an edge is going to be in your future, far into the future.
We'll see.
Talk about your career up to this point, Jamie. Some of those big accomplishments and those moments that you've been really proud of, those particular things that you're particularly proud of.
The wins you're always proud of. But it's the losses and the figuring that make you appreciate it. It's not I haven't won as much as some of these guys. Some of these guys have won so much, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
But to me it's the game. It's the figure. When Fred died, I lost my mentor.
Sure.
I had to get my teeth kicked in for years until I figured out how to win. And the figuring to me has been I think the biggest accomplishment in my life. It's not the wins.
Yeah.
I figured out that I figured out a bunch of things. I figured out what kind of dog that I needed. Not every I say that every handler has a dog that suits them better.
Right.
But I figured out what I needed, and I figured out where I was on the course. I figured out these courses, and I figured out how to work it all to get ready to win. And it's all pieces of the puzzle that I'm probably more proud of, and then I stuck with it because there was a lot of times when it'd been a lot easier to go do something else because it's not easy work.
And it would be a daunting enough task to take out your own shingle and go on the road and become an all-age handler by itself. But when you lose a major piece of that support system, as you did in Fred, I could honestly see where it would be really easy just to fold your tent and go home and to find something else to do. But you carried through that, and you purveyed, and you had your wife pushing you, and you had...
No, let me correct you. I did not. I was done.
Oh, you had called it quits.
No, I was done. Yeah,
Wow.
I was done. I had Stan Houghton, Rob Butler, my father-in-law, David Williams, my wife now, Judd Carlton. Yeah, I wouldn't have done. I would have been done. They made me. I'm not what I don't know what you call it. I'm not a rise through the ashes. I was done.
Right.
I'm not beat all odds. I didn't do that. I had a lot of help, and I was done.
That's amazing.
But I'm so thankful that those people were in my life. Richie Robertson.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, was one of the. I mean, I remember him coming to summer camping after Fred died, and I was a disaster. And he came in and said, "Get your ass up, let's go." And we won and didn't. And yeah, no, I'm not a Cinderella story. I'm a culmination of a shit show that came got pretty. And I think every single person, whether I'm mad at them, don't get along with them now, whatever it is, they've all taught me something. They've all brought me through a rough time and a good time. They've been there through the good and the bad, and it's been a crazy ride. It's been a fun one. And I know I don't recommend it for everybody, but I sure wouldn't change any.
Well, it's super cool to get to hear you thank those people and share how they, were the largest part of your career essentially, and what they did for you and lifted you up and put you on this pedestal like they did. And everybody, it just echoes your sentiment earlier that it's a team effort, and you definitely had a team of people that believed in you, whether you wanted to believe in yourself or not. And that's the most unbelievable part of the human existence is the necessity of people that believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. And that's just a really cool testament. And you're in a different position in your career now, Jamie, as we've kind of talked about. And maybe your opinion on this, or your insight, your suggestions on this, are more coveted now than they would be starting out. But how do we grow this sport? You've obviously made it clear that you care about this sport and the growth of it. Never mind where Jamie Daniels sits in the field trial world, but how does Jamie Daniels feel like or think that we can grow this sport where it's at today?
I think we got to go to the kids. I think the youth field trial alliance is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yes.
I think the shooting dog folks down south, I'm not saying everywhere else, but I know down south, the shooting dogs for the Alabama circuit, man, they make you feel at home.
They're healthy, aren't they?
Oh man, it's great. You go down there and just have a good time. You don't even have to run a dog.
Right.
And that's what it's. People get too caught up in the winning, and they forget about the reason.
Amen.
Enjoyment. Yeah. I want to win, but I don't want it. I don't give a damn about a cheap win.
Right.
I didn't think I had anything coming, and I win. Oh yeah, I'm gonna take the check. I'm gonna be the first to tell you I'm gonna take the check because I ain't stupid. But I also tell you like, well, you know what? Christmas came early. I wouldn't judge it. Don't get mad at me.
Right.
I'm not the only one. I'm not the only pro that will say that.
Sure.
We know when we get a nod. But those, you go over there and you feel welcome, and you do some in Georgia too. It's not just Alabama, but I think the youth field trials are where we're gonna at least plant the seed, whether they want to be a dog trainer or a scout or whatever. Maybe they want to be a doctor.
Sure.
Well, maybe once they become a doctor, they want to go back and they want to work bird dogs again because they remember how much fun they had when they were younger.
Right. Or put a dog on a string of somebody that can do that for them. Now that they've got the financial stability to do that, you never know where those paths are going to go.
I tell my kids who are around some great dogs. I've got pictures of my 4-year-old sitting in the barrel with Rebel Air.
That's cool.
And he goes, I'm going to be a dog trainer. I was like, nope. You're going to be a dog owner, not a dog trainer. More fun, trust me. But then I say, look at him, and I look at the way he is with dogs.
Yeah.
My daughter is with horses. And I go, that's what you want to be. I'll set you up. Here's the book.
Yeah.
Feel fortunate that you don't have to write it the way I had to. And if that's what they want to do, they're going to have a good life.
They will.
I promise you this, hard as it was, and all the crap that I've been through and to put up with, and then the winning and the highs and the lows and the roller coaster of it all, man, I wouldn't change this for anything in the world.
Yeah, it's made you who you are today. And like I've said many times on this podcast, is the friendships and the network of people and the memories you make are far more important than that cheap picture on the internet of you holding that dog. I mean, I know those are great moments and those are all what we strive for, but those friendships with those people that can dig you out of a rut or give you help or words of encouragement or friendships that just last, somebody you can call and ask and help, and those things are far more important. You sound a lot like me. I just believe in the kids. I believe in the camaraderie and making this culture count. And I think you're exactly right. We start with kids. What advice, Jamie, if you've got someone that's just looking at the field trial game and they maybe don't know where to get started, but they know they want to get some more diversification out of their dogs and they've got a competitive itch, what advice would you give to a brand new field trialer? Forget they're going to go horseback, forget they're going to go walking, forget wherever they're at. Just what advice would you give to a brand new field trialer?
Go watch. Go. Don't worry about your dog. Just go watch a field trial. Go look at the drawing. Go look at I say that, and then what's a funny story at the Continental. That there was one day at the Continental. It was like the who's who of dogs that are running this year.
Oh yeah.
If you're ever going to watch a day of the best dogs in the country, that was the day it'd be at the Continental. The absolute worst day. No birds moved. It was a shit show. All those dogs looked like crap. I mean, I ain't gonna say look like crap, but it wasn't near what it just was a horrible day to run on birds. But go watch.
Yeah.
Don't read the field. Take some time and go watch.
So many people are apprehensive to show up in the first place, Jamie.
Go find the dog that you like, that suits you the best. Don't go breed to something that you don't know just because it's. If you're selling puppies, yeah, I can understand that. But if you really want to get into it and you really want to breed a dog, or you really want to, just go watch and don't be blinded by it. Just watch with an open mind, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you see something you really like, pursue it.
Right.
Go down, but don't read the field and go out there and go, I'm going to go breed to so and so. Well, you've never seen them.
Yeah, that's true.
Go watch, and you go to that lunchroom with a bunch of pros. You're going to have a big time. You're going to and listen to the mess and just go watch. I don't know a pro that I run with that won't take the time to have a conversation with you.
There's the important part.
Every single one. Luke Eisenhart, Judd Carlton, Mark McLean, Alan Vincent, Andy Doherty, but Tommy Davis. Tommy Davis is still in my mind one of the greatest that's ever lived.
Yeah.
Ike Todd, Larry Huffman, Dr. Corder, amateur, Chris Cagle, amateur.
Right.
And all these guys, Gary Lester, I've never seen one of them not talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they always do it pleasantly. Get people at the wrong time. But, and just in conversation and just walking up and talking to them. And all these guys are good guys.
Yeah.
Randy Anderson.
Yeah, super.
I'm not trying to leave anybody out.
No, we understand that.
All these guys will take the time and talk to you about dogs. You know why? Because as much as you think you love dogs, these guys love it so much, they chose to do it for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they didn't love it that much, there's no way they would do it because it's way too much work with way too little reward.
And things like families get put on the back burner and other careers kind of get put on the back burner. And these are guys that have dedicated the majority, if not the entirety of their life to dogs. And I've met most of those gentlemen and those people that you mentioned there, Jamie, and all of them have had time. If you'll humble yourself and not try to act like you're somebody that you're not, and just approach them with
Oh,
humility and say, hey, I'm a big fan, or just like this dog. Those guys, including yourself, you'll have time for those people.
you make time for them because one, as a business, you don't, you're never going to kick out.
Sure, yeah.
But two, I mean, they're just guys.
Yeah.
They're not, none of them think they're above reproach. And some of these guys are generational. That's what Luke Eisner, look at Andy Dart. I mean,
Oh,
Andy Dart,
yeah, very much so.
generational. I mean, you just look at some of these guys and they've been around for so long and they know so much. I mean, people go, oh, you've done this now. You're a veteran. I'm like, I'm not a veteran because, Tommy Davis and Andy Daughter are still showing up to field trials.
Yeah.
Randy Anderson, my father-in-law. I'm not a veteran. If you look around,
You're a young gun.
I'm a youngin, and I still look up to them. And when they speak, I listen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of knowledge in these guys that go back before all this technology, and I'm still learning.
Yeah, and that's the important part. I think that's what sets all those guys apart is they learn every time they cut a dog loose. They're learning something, and they're not afraid to take on new information, humble themselves, and pretty much bend the knee and agree that they're not perfect and they don't have all the answers for every quirk with a dog and everything, and all breedings work. They're humble guys that throw them out there and do the best they can. And it's a recipe with hard work too. You have to love the work. You have to love taking care of those dogs and doing kennel chores just as much as you do running them, and that's what separates those people. Jamie, where do you see the sport as a whole 20 years from now? Jamie's sitting on his front porch rocking his rocking chair and he picks up the field. What kind of state do you see the game in about 20 years from now?
Unfortunately, I think that the dog that I love is going to be gone. I think it's going to be one dog. I think the true all-age dog is not very long going to be a thing of the past, and we're going to be running. We're going to be running one dog, and it'll just be a field trial dog. I think you'll pick and choose what judges you run under. I think the handlers will have a more diverse string of dogs.
Right.
Which is not. I mean, change is inevitable. It's just going to happen, and with the grounds getting smaller, the shooting dog is doing really good. The all age is not. It just takes more. It takes more dogs. It takes more horses. I can go run 20 shooting dogs with 3 horses.
Yeah.
But I can't go run 10 all age dogs with 4.
Right.
Horses are high. Overhead's more, entry fees are more. And to be honest with you, the people that are qualified to look at a true all-age dog is just so slim.
Yeah, it's few and far in between. That was another thing I was going to.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the judges. I mean, Lord knows I don't want to piss off any judge. But,
right. And it's no fault of their own. I mean, I'm guilty of this too.
I appreciate their time.
I get thrown into the saddle sometimes, and I'm sure there's people that don't think I'm qualified and stuff, but I try to do my part and to give back to the game. It doesn't matter what facet, and I've really tried to rely on people to help me with things maybe I didn't understand and humble myself. Plenty of times I've sat down at the lunchroom table at the clubhouse, conversations with guys like you, and just hope that there was wisdom imparted in me. That way you get to a point that when you do sit in the judicial saddle, you do command some respect, or people trust your eye and what you've seen and what you've done, and you make those right decisions. And I totally understand there's shrinkage, there's contraction, grounds are getting smaller and few and far in between. The cost of living, Jamie, to me is the hurdle. It's the real hurdle with not only just all-age dogs, but horseback in general. It's a big expense, and quite frankly, the guy that's got the hunting dog right now, he doesn't have 25 acres for 2 horses and a barn and stuff, and that's the hurdle. But it doesn't mean that we don't keep fighting for this sport, because I'm a testament to it. I started out walking, hunting dogs, and got into a walking trial. Next thing you know, I own 2 horses, and my wife stays mad at me all the time chasing these dogs around. But I got started somewhere, and you'll end up somewhere depending on how deep your love goes and appreciation and work ethic goes. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Like I started doing syndicate owning, just like I looked at the racehorse stuff, and I think one of the owners, Jack Schwartz, and bringing it up to me, you start doing syndicate owners where, just everybody pull their money together and let's go with this dog.
Yeah.
And let's have a good time. And when it comes to the judging, I always sound like, just get who you're going to get and be appreciative, but I do know that they're doing it out of honesty
Yeah.
and they're not doing it out of malice. And as long as they're doing it out of that and they're trying, I don't have a problem with it. And judges are so hard to come by now. You just got to go. And I don't think there's anybody dishonest. I don't think there's any. I think that sometimes that people get caught up in a moment. Yeah, but I mean, the error is human.
Sure.
That's one of the problems with the sport. That's also what makes the sport, not for the faint of heart. Is you can go out there and knock it out of the park, and everybody in the gallery sees it, and the judges didn't see the same thing you did.
Yeah, and that plays into that famous saying that I hear often from those guys that have been in it long enough, that have rolled with those punches and had those days in the sun and those days in the dumps. They all say the same thing. That's field trialing.
That's field.
And if you can't hang with it, then it may not be for you. But for those people that are obsessive about bird dogs and love to work hard and just can't get it off their mind, then yeah, this is the game for you, and you need to persevere through it. Jamie, how do people find you if they want to connect with you? They want to talk more about rebel breeding. They want to inquire about your services and stuff like that. How does people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you?
Everything is on Facebook, Daniels Kennels. Instagram, Daniels Kennels, my Jamie Daniels Facebook page. You can also go through my Realty Southeastern Farm Brokers. Yeah,
you got a lot of good content on there too. I know you've got great photos, and all the content on your socials there are real engaging, and you got quality photos. You got pictures of your kids.
Well, I think I'm gonna plug Chris Matham.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Does all that. She's awesome.
She's awesome.
If you want your picture done, Chris Matham. I mean, I can't say enough. She's helped she's taken basically my social media over, and I can't thank her enough.
True dog lady too.
Yeah.
True dog lady.
Yeah. I'm out there, and I'm if I don't answer, leave a message, and I'll call you back. I mean, I really try to do my part now. I'm at a point in my life, and that I'm probably one of the best from a field trial bird dog standpoint. I'm in the best mindset, and of all of it right now. I mean, I'm in a good spot, and
awesome.
I've actually fallen probably back in love with it, the breeding and the training, and I'm more in love with it now than I don't care about going to a field trial anymore. I'm gonna be the first day. I don't care. I'm all right with it. But I love working these young dogs and bringing them on and doing it, and I'm back in love with the bird dog part of it, and that's kind of what got me going, is the love of bird dog, and I'm kind of back to where I was, and
yeah,
I love winning the national and the dog of the year, and then the doing, and I say that, but I won a dog of the year before that, and it didn't kill the field trial part of me. And then I guess last year, after everything was done, and then I had I'll tell you exactly what it was. I had a pretty bad scare with a surgery that went bad, and my daughter had a bad horse wreck. For the deer awards. We were in ICU in Atlanta, and I think that changed everything. Really,
yeah.
It made my decision to just stay at home way easier.
Yeah,
and I'm still working hard. I'm still racing and training, and I still love it, but not as much as I love my wife and my family and these babies. I just, I'm glad I'm here, and anything I can do for the sport, I'm going to do.
That's awesome. Well, that's well said. It takes a man to choose those right things over sometimes what he'd like to self-indulge himself in. Jamie, thanks so much for coming on. Good luck with your future endeavors. Good luck raising kids. Good luck being a good dad, and good luck at the National with Miller's Blindsider.
Thank you very much. And like I said, if you ever need anything from me, you know my number, Joe, and thank you again for taking the time to, let a derelict like me answer a bunch of questions.
You're too modest, buddy. Thanks again, Jamie.
Thank you. Take care.
That was the Breakaway Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend, like, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms to stay up to date on everything National Bird Hunters Association and all other field trial related content. But hopefully, we'll see you next time at the Breakaway.